Okay, we are moving from our, um, call it theoretical or map, digital map, to the actual game board itself. After some disheveling caused by bumping into the table and other such things, moving some of this equipment out of the way so that things don't look quite so shabby. Um, all right, so what we're looking at here is the game table set up, and there are some issues with the lighting which we will deal with. Let's take some let's rearrange some of this lighting to be, let's try like this. Okay, that looks to be fairly straight forward. And let's try like that. Looks pretty good. And this one as well. So that's pretty well lit. And now we can actually see what the heck is going on. So we haven't placed any units, and the bridges are going to be replaced. The fields are not in place yet, but we will certainly do that. And it should be noted that wherever possible, for sustainability reasons, even though we have made this map from the Excalibur board game. This is the St. Andrew Leroy focus, and we have drawn upon that graphic to make this map. Hence the reason why there are so many roads. We wouldn't traditionally have this many roads, at least not in this particular custom-made pattern. If we had our normal method, the roads would follow the hexagons, and the rivers as well would follow the hexagons. In other words, that you wouldn't have such custom flowing look to everything. And mind you, the rivers that are in place here, this is all proof of concept. These are not the foamies felt. These are actually printed from a laser printer on on self-adhesive paper and applied to the fabric of a hex grid. It was a proof of concept to see if it would work, and it is working. This is another reason we were referring to the successes we were having, because what this is doing is it's allowing us to completely forget about the element of the rivers on using foamies to be placed on. They can actually be taped, well, they're self-adhesive, to the fabric. And this is really beneficial. Now, mind you, you need a laser printer. Well, you could use an inkjet, but that would be probably a lot of ink. So the blue toner, obviously, there are some issues with the toner, but that's because of the age or maintenance of the laser printer. But we really don't care right now. It was just proof of concept. We just wanted to see. In other words, we didn't print this at a super high level. And as a matter of fact, you can see maybe even some of this toner might be coming off. Why? Because even after printing on the laser printer, it should be sprayed. The paper, before it gets applied, should be spray coated so that it maintains its toner. Because this is going to start to see, this is toner. This is typical. Toner might start coming off based on how good the toner is or how good the paper is. My feeling is it's the paper. Because the paper is not meant for this kind of intensity of toner to be applied to it. But we shall see. That's why we're talking about more experimentation and such. Also missing from here are some more buildings because the Excalibur map for the St. Andrew Leroy area shows many more buildings, and we'll put those in position too. So what we've got here is we've just got American Revolution figures out, just to see if we could get some perspective on how the things look, and if the roads are a good size, which they are, and so on, that we cut these in a fairly quick order. Again, it was a lot of proof of concept to see how easily we could cut the roads to shape without having any other guidance. We just drew them by hand on the brown foamies and then cut them out. Just by looking at the map, I just drew, and kind of, because of the hexagon grid, was able to get pretty accurate. And you should also, I should also say that the St. Andrew Leroy map is a little bit different than this, because for wargaming purposes, we had to modify how the roads are placed in some cases. One of them being over here. There was a difference in how the road came from that bridge. It actually curled around toward the north of this forested area. It curled north and then came down, and we were like, why curl like that? So we just went straight, and then diagonally up. And there's another road that came from here on the original map that we've removed, but we are going to add it here to this intersection and make this flow like this. Well, it's not really necessary because the road doesn't go anywhere, but it does provide another entry point for the game. And so therefore, by having all these entry points all the way around the game table for random events and or for random placement of units entering the game, it makes for a fun, unexpected method of determining where the units are, especially if you have a situation where units are all moving on the table, nothing is in place, and the objective is to secure the St. Andrew Leroy manor, if you will. So that would be the objective. How would you do that? What is the criteria for obtaining the objective? You would have to establish that. And one of the ways of establishing that is to say, look, we've laid out all this other terrain. Just by grabbing this section doesn't mean you win. It means that there has to be other things that you have to designate to become the winner, the owner of that thing. Of whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. You could say, okay, we're going to, this is a representation of the Corley, the Besley Priory? One of them. Anyway, from the Excalibur map. This is the medieval architecture. Besley Priory, I think, is down here. And this would be the, I forget the name. Anyway, so this, if you could say, okay, this is the objective. For this whole game table, that's the objective. Well, you can't just take it and say, yeah, you win. You have to say, well, you may have troops in there, or it's being defended and you assault it and so on. Okay, and you take it, fine, but there has to be more than just taking that. In other words, the defender of or the current owner or whatever might have this in his possession or his or her possession, and then there might be something else out here as well that's in their possession. So you'd have to defeat that as well as taking this to be declared the winner. Or there could be even more than that. There could be 5 objectives in order to say you win and you've taken it. So it's the same with saying for St. Andrew Le the village itself, or the manor itself, the manor buildings, enclosed as they may be in typical English fashion for the Middle Ages. There may be fields, sometimes bordered, some actually mostly not bordered. But at any rate, there's going to be hedges, there's going to be walls. Not so many fences in France. I'm sorry, in Europe as America, even though we're using American Revolution troops. There may not be as many fences, but there certainly are going to be some stone walls and other types of barriers, types hedges, maybe ditches. And the ditches themselves can also be interpreted as a cover. So we would represent them with either a wall or a fence. And the hedgerows themselves, well, a hedge is not cover. A hedge, unless it's built and grown over a stone wall, would not be cover. But we will have to say, if it's a barrier or if it's a border of a field, if it's shown, then it will be cover. And another interesting thing to note is that the river itself here has no bank. There are no debris on the bank yet, even though we have those models. Why do we have those? Because we want to represent that the banks of the rivers look a certain way. It's decoration, sure. Could it be cover? Yes. There could be portions of the banks of the rivers that are heavily, they're stones, or they're very encumbered, or there could be marsh around that area, especially even though I've got a building here. The truth of the matter is, the building should actually be moved somewhere else. It would make more logical sense for a mill. We'll put it up here. More than likely, this area where the rivers are coming together is going to be probably a marshy land. This is a lowland, obviously. So this is going to be fairly marshy, or it could be. And so this, by the way, is the wrong river bridge. So we'll replace that. Also, these are the wrong ones as well, but we're just, trying to get started so we can understand what the parameters are here. So these are all bridges. We don't know if they're wood, stone, whatever. We don't know if they're burnable. We won't know that until they happen, but we do know that this is a major stone bridge, and this is a major stone bridge. These ones up here, we do not know their integrity. That one as well, I think, is a major stone bridge. They cannot be destroyed. So we will certainly address that when the time comes to it. So that's where we're at. We're going to start working on the terrain and replacing some of the stuff and making it more real. And then we'll put down borders, and we'll do the typical English countryside look and feel. And then we'll start placing troops. Again, we're going to be using American Revolution troops. So it should be interesting. We could use any troops. It could even be World War II, which we may in fact do. But just to experiment and see how things come along. Remember, especially in the World War II segment, the World War II aspect, things are very much exploded. You don't have a unit representing an entire battalion of hundreds of men, or 200 men or something. The fact is, in a World War II game, it would be a platoon level, so every stand would be a company. Or I'm sorry, at least in our original version of Hex Command Mechanized, every stand would be a squad. So every vehicle is one vehicle, and it's a 1/72 scale, so things are larger. And also, by the way, speaking of larger, you'll notice there are no hills placed here yet. In the Excalibur map, which we base a lot of our gaming off of because it's so wonderful, there are no particular... There are some cliffs and so on, but when it comes to making cliffs visual on the game table, that's a little different story. So the way to represent a cliff would be the edge of a hill. So I believe there might be some hill structure here, but in the middle here, at least in the Excalibur map, the way it was drawn so beautifully, is that the St. Andrew Leroy region is a farmland, and there is no high point. So the high points seem to be everywhere else around, mainly east and west, if you will. I'm sorry, west and east. So if we're looking north that way, west and east. So there we are, and we'll come back.